the most intriguing metaphor to encapsulate. I saw a ginormous. When I see a perfect correlation between mutually exclusive field, and I'm specifically referring to this within the context of metaphors and analogies. We both know metaphors and analogies is finding a commonality between two different forms of existence. Now, there's a clear distinction, between verbal. Why are you saying verbal? There's a clear distinction between a metaphor and an analogy, right? And we'll get into the differentiating factor because they're mutually exclusive and they're always used interchangeably and out of context. An analogy is when you find commonalities between two different forms of existence, right? But a metaphor is also when you find a commonality between two different forms two different forms of existence. So if two concepts encapsulate the same idea, of course there'll be a misconstrued here between dialects and dialogues, discourses, debates, etc. The distinction is when there's a parallel common denominator between an analogy and what you were referring the analogy to. Like when I say, I'll give you the perfect embodiment of an analogy that I truly feel encapsulate what the rudiments or the essence or the fundamental of great writing is centered around. And that is painting a picture. Painting a picture is an analogy, but the irony here, painting a picture is actually an idiom. You remember idioms derive from metaphors. Whenever a word takes on a new meaning or a connotation, and then it's hold on. I apologize, I'm processing too many things at that point. But let's stay on topic. Painting a picture is an analogy used to describe. Painting a picture with words is an analogy of a painting used to describe how you write by using words to paint a picture, right? So painting a picture can be used as the analogy, and a writer is like a painter, is the metaphor. So you see, the metaphor is the term that is coined to define, right, a commonality between a different form of existence. A metaphor is when you explain primarily what the butterfly effect, like the butterfly effect was a term that was coined by a mathematician / meteorologist. Right, when you say, well, sudden stroke or the fragility of a fragile butterfly's flap, right, can have a chain reaction, domino, futuristic effect can cause cataclysmic global warming, thunderstorm, lightning, or any kind of natural disaster. Well, not natural, but which predicated from an actual source. The source is the butterfly. The butterfly effect is called a metaphor. The explanation of the fragility and the flaps of the butterfly and the fragility, how it could extend and escalate into something tragic, is the analogy. So the analogy takes on the explanatory position. The analogy falls in this explanatory predicament to say, man, you're like a bull. You like a bull is actually a, what's it called? You're like a simile, right? But he's a bull. That's a metaphor. Explaining what a bull, when a bull charges, like you see in Matador when the guy has the whatever that stuff is and the bull charges, that's a matador. When you start talking about the whole biological process of a matador or the ecology between the buffalo charges, the human and human sports, what you see is the analogical explanation. When you say the man is a bull, the bull is the metaphor. So you see there's quite a clear distinction between a metaphor and an analogy. And a metaphor and I will use a metaphor to explain a metaphor ironically. A metaphor is when there's a term to define a commonality between a different form of existence. An analogy is an explanatory position it takes on. Like when someone says to me, Atelston, Fitzgerald, hold on, why do you call yourself Mr. Pregnant? I say, well, Mr. Pregnant is a metaphor. For what? I say it's a metaphor for full of it. Now, the irony here is when you use a metaphor to explain a metaphor, that is counterintuitive or counterproductive, because the objective of explaining a metaphor is breaking down something from a different form of existence into a literal interpretation. So when I say my name is, I use a metaphor to define a metaphor, it is ironic, right? Because you use literal devices to break down and dissect a metaphor. So I hope that helped. My whole objective was to have a very casual, trivial, mundane, just chit chat, and every now and then it transcends. You just segue into this intriguing idea. So metaphors and analogies are like the non-literal aspect of linguistics, figurative devices